Hi, you guys. This is the last of the 3 messages that I wanted to give you, and I wanted to break them up on separate videos so it wouldn't take too long on any one. I have a note card on this one because I had too many points to share with you if there's time, that I'd probably forget some of them and finish the video and say, oh, rats, I wish I had remembered that one. And what this is about, this is different. The last 2 videos were, I think, aging and about some health issues, and about Joel Skousen coming on Lost Arts Radio to do an educational series, totally free. I invite you to be there with me. I think it's going to be incredible, because I've heard him give these little 10-minute segments on big shows, and he needed time to really do a whole educational series. I like it when I run into real teachers, and he's one of them. So watch for that. It's going to start in October. But this one that I have the notes on is different. I watched the latest debate of presidential candidates last night in the U.S. And I thought, all right, you guys, first of all, I was thinking, what, you really believe that? And I couldn't believe I could believe, unfortunately, because I understand why they say what they're saying. But it was like promoting total insanity and how to destroy your own country and that sort of thing. And there are people who don't even understand that and think, wow, these are such great people, and they've got such great ideas, and they don't realize, I guess they're just really educated by I think they call it the educational system now in the U.S., and if they really are a product of that, then they would think that these people were great. But they're I'm not going to say anything bad about them. I'm sure they're very nice people, and most of them are sincere, but the stuff that they're saying is like the ABCs of how to destroy your own country quickly if you would like to do that. And I thought I'd take a different approach and say, all right, these people in the debate last night, they were all in this one party called the Democratic Party, and I'm not in any party. I'm not partisan at all. If a Democrat or a person in any other party says something good, I'll say it's really good. And if they say stuff that's going to destroy their own country, if it was followed, I'd say, well, I just did say that. That's why I said it. But I thought, all right, instead of saying they're a little bit off track, what about what they could do to win? Any of them. And I say, yeah, the Democrats can win in America in 2020, no doubt. Well, they may win anyway, even if they're totally out to lunch by machine hacking, which happened last time to a massive extent. People voting using the names of registered voters who have died. People just sneaking into the country and being invited by the party to vote. That kind of thing. You could run somebody who is completely crazy or knows nothing, and they'd win with enough of that stuff. But I'm putting that aside for the moment and just looking at ideas and making believe we would have an open election. The Russian thing is stupid. That never happened. But I'm saying all these other things that happen are real. And if you set them aside and say, if we could have a real election in the U.S., how would the Democrats honestly win in 2020? And they could. They really could. Because there's a lot of areas that the current president is unaware of things, making big mistakes. Not the ones that we hear on TV. Those are not true. Every single accusation against him that I've heard, starting with being a Russian agent and a racist and all that, that's all made up. It's not true. And if you are not familiar with the fact that the media makes up stuff all the time that's completely fabricated, that might be unbelievable to you. But I've spent a lot of time with no preconception and no party to defend or anything like that, just digging into investigating, and I found, wow, they say these on these major TV stations and social media channels and things like that are just totally made up. That's just how it is. So, but let's make believe they wanted to be honest and win the 2020 election by legitimate means. What could they do? Well, okay, the current president has a lot of failings. I hope he fixes them, but he hasn't yet. One of them is he did not build a wall along the southern border, and he promised he would. Of course, he was blocked by the party that we're talking about. But in any case, he didn't build it. So if an honest Democratic candidate wants to come up and say, yes, obviously you need a physical barrier to protect your country so that you can decide on how to legally let people immigrate. That's normal, okay? It's not racist or anything stupid like that. It's normal. It's not a way to kill people like some of the candidates. That's completely crazy. It's to stop people just running across with, bags of drugs or weapons or kidnapped kids, which is happening constantly. It's very often not their own kids. They're just bringing them for like a human shield so that they get in easier. A wall just stops that. It's almost all over, especially if you have a wall that you can see through, like the 30-foot kind they're putting up, and you put personnel on there like our military, which should be brought home to do that instead of illegal wars overseas. I totally agree with Tulsi Gabbard about that, and with a lot of things the current president has said. He's actually trying to withdraw troops from stupid wars right now that aren't even declared wars, and both parties are trying to block him from stopping the participation in an illegal war. That's really interesting. But back to how they could honestly win in 2020, and it would be a good thing. Expose the whole medical monopoly based on drugs and vaccines and invasive procedures, and restore health freedom. If a Democrat wanted to do that, that would be fantastic. I would say that they're saying something great, and they would be. But it's been the Democratic Party, almost everybody in it, in the leadership, has been pushing forced medical treatments and no health freedom at all, and that's crazy. So if a Democrat wanted to win the presidency honestly, or even another position in Congress or something, bring back health freedom. Right now the Democrats are apparently completely against it, but they could change that. The other thing is come out more than the current president to try to educate the public about why abortion has nothing to do with women's health freedom. That's completely crazy. If you're carrying a baby, it's not your body, it's the baby. Okay, that's another person, it's not you. And it's like this sacred charge that the mother and the father have to protect the baby, not kill it. Protection, killing, they're not the same thing. And it's not the killing that is your freedom, it's your sacred honor to protect the baby as it grows inside the mother and then outside the mother. And the people in this party have wanted to kill the baby with impunity right up to the time that it's trying to get born. No problem. They say, oh, that's not a human being. Yeah, it looks like a human being, and it's moving its arms and legs, and it's struggling to live, but it's not a human being. It's just a piece of tissue. It's part of the mother's body, so it's her health freedom to kill it. We're not in good shape if we actually believe any of that stuff. So a Democrat could really come across wonderfully by telling the truth about that, and making sure there's opportunities for adoption everywhere, which there already are, and letting people know about that. There's so much that could be done that would be wonderful there, and it would be a first. I haven't heard any of the Democrat leaders say any of that stuff. Even the ones that have other good positions don't take advantage of what they could do on this, and the current president hasn't done enough. So there's another way that a Democrat could really come out on top. Also, a Democratic candidate could expose the criminal activity of the UN, the EU, and other supranational organizations like the current president did with the TPP and things like that, the WHO, and organizations that are not as wonderful as we're supposed to think they are, and get out of those organizations like the UN and ones that are very, very destructive. That would be wonderful for a Democrat to come out and say that, and to lead the way, because they're supposed to be liberal, right? That's all based on liberty, and you can't let yourself be controlled by criminal organizations if you want to be free. So that's just kind of common sense. Another thing that a Democrat could do to really help win the presidency is to expose the crimes of communism, socialism, fascism, and even democracy. See, democracy is not guaranteed to be good. That's why it's not even in the U.S. Constitution at all. Even a constitutional republic is not guaranteed to be good unless you have good people writing it. You could have a constitution that says horrible things, and you'd still have a constitutional republic that would be really bad. So none of these systems are any good. Unless you have the consciousness to make it good. And the systems of communism and socialism are all suicidal for countries and for populations, and that's shown conclusively in history in many examples. And Democrat could come out and really help get to win the presidency by exposing the fraud of communism and socialism, and even democracies where the people have a low consciousness and they vote to take away the rights of minorities, less than 51%. 51% can vote to take away all the rights of the 49%, and that's total democracy. It's not a good thing. That's why it's not in the U.S. Constitution right now. A great Democrat candidate could come out and expose Wi-Fi and 5G as based on weaponized frequencies that were being perfected already by World War II, and we've had guests on the show, like more recently Mark Steele and people like that, who have given the details of that. There's no question about this. It's not a theory. It was being used as a weapon by World War II. It's much more developed now, and we've talked about that on numerous shows. So if a great Democratic candidate to come out and win the presidency and win positions in Congress would expose what's wrong with the current Wi-Fi technology and 5G and what's coming after it. The current president is completely wrong on that. He's saying 5G is wonderful. He really thinks it is. It's not that he's lying. It's not that he's working for the telecom industry. It's that he thinks it is wonderful. And he wants 6G and 10G and 100G and whatever G is available, and beat everybody else in the G race. That's crazy. And it's not, in his case, it's not because he's malicious. If he was malicious, the media would love him and the other things would be different. He's not. He really wants to help the country, but he's completely wrong on this issue. So a Democrat could take the lead by exposing what's wrong with how 5G should be shut down right away, how the criminal telecom companies that are pushing it need to be held accountable for trying to hurt not only all the humans but all the living creatures in the environment. The 5G is disastrous, and it's well proven. You can look at scientists for wired technology and all the other great groups that have been exposing this, and the government agencies don't care, and they say, well, you can't object to 5G just because of health and environment and silly things like that. What? There's an actual policy and a law in place in the Telecommunications Act, what was it, 1996 or something like that, that says you can't object while it's killing you. That's not a good plan. And a Democratic candidate could come out and shine above everybody else by exposing this. You know what they could also do, since we really want Democrats to win, right, is they could come out and expose geoengineering as the real man-made climate change. That would be brilliant, and it would stop all the Green New Deal silliness and things like that, because those people want austerity and everybody to stop using energy and, if possible, stop exhaling carbon dioxide. That's not really a brilliant plan. But if they would expose geoengineering and say, as a president, as a Democrat and a president, I will order the Air Force to escort those geoengineering airplanes out of the sky. They should never have been up there spraying. They've been doing that for decades, really heavily since the early 90s. We're not supposed to believe it exists, but we want the Democrats to win. The great Democrat could say, I am stopping geoengineering. That's the real climate change. It's just, we've seen it creating a drought over California. We've seen it dumping explosive metal dust on forests as a foundation for fires that are way hotter than normal. It's a totally terrible thing where we've cut out, at this point, about 22% of the sunlight reaching the surface of the earth. Sunlight is really important. It was not a mistake of God or nature to make sunlight. Plants, you probably noticed, plants and trees and things have these things on them called leaves. They're green and because they have chlorophyll, and they take the sunlight and transform it into sugars and other things that go into the roots and are eaten by animals and humans. And it's very important. You don't want to cut out sunlight to save the world. That is not a good plan. And a brilliant Democrat could explain that and say, as soon as I become president, the Democrat speaking, I will stop geoengineering and expose all the people who have been promoting and knowingly using it to do bad things. Another thing that is just wide open for one of the great Democrats to come out and do is expose the truth about the Second Amendment and why it's vital to not have it infringed, and how all the other Democrats are falling for this thing of saying, well, we just outlaw guns and firearms, and then there will be no crime and everybody will be, really nice to each other. It's going to be great. They forgot about what's happening in Chicago right now, in a city where it's virtually impossible to legally get guns. The criminals have no problem, and so people have 5 locks on their doors in the bad areas, trying to avoid the armed criminals coming in and shooting and robbing them because the guns are illegal. Most of the Democrats don't understand how this works, but a great Democrat who is really wise and not tied down to partisan things that are not true comes out and exposes this. Wow, they could win the presidency and they would deserve it. I'm going to cut through some of this really quickly because we don't have a lot of time. The truth about nationalism, most of the Democrats are not taking this opportunity to show how nationalism is great. And most of them are falling for the thing that, well, nationalism is really bad. It means you want to go out and kill all the other countries. That's not very intelligent. That's not the real, point of nationalism. The point is, be an example for all the other countries. Make your country a wonderful place to live, prosperous, and where everybody respects each other, and you have freedom to live however you want to live, as long as you don't go out attacking other people. You just do your own life, but your freedom of thinking and talking and acting however you want, as long as you're not going out trying to take away the rights of other people. Expose that nationalism is a really good thing, and correct the current president who thinks, well, nationalism, okay, what he said is globalism is what is good for the world and nationalism is what's good for your country. That's wrong. Globalism is what's horrible for every country in the world because it takes away their sovereignty. It destroys their unique culture. It kind of pushes all countries together into just a mix that can be controlled from one central point that is completely not representative, and they each lose their individuality. That's really bad. So the current president was wrong about that. A great Democrat could come up and correct him and say that nationalism is wonderful if it's done correctly, because it's an example to each country, and every country should be doing what's wonderful for their country and then cooperating with all the others that are also doing the same thing. There'd be no central authority trying to override the laws of each individual country. So some great Democrat that's wise could explain that. I haven't heard any of them do it yet. At the same time, they would expose how bad it is for an individual country that wants to go out and take over all the others and destroy them. And this can be done, and is being done right now, in the name of religion and religious terrorism. It's not what do you call it, extreme, or there's another word I'm looking for, radical. It's not radical, okay? If it's in the scriptures of your religion that you have to either kill, enslave, or convert everybody else so that God is going to be really happy with you, that's not extreme. It's not radical. It's what your religion says. That's going on. And so a great Democrat, instead of hiding that, which most of them are doing now, could come out and actually explain it so everyone would understand. Even the members of religion that says kill or enslave everybody who won't convert, they could say, wait a minute, that might not be a really good idea. Yes, the scripture says it, but I don't have to do it. It's really bad. And that's not actually the way to make God happy and to create world peace. And if we get brilliant like that and led by some wise Democrat who understands it, what would happen is we'd come up from level 0 to a level 1 civilization like Dr. Stephen Greer has talked about, where the whole planet's not trying to kill each other, and you actually cooperate and start to respect life a little bit. I think that would be a really good plan, and I'd love to see a great Democratic leader win the presidency, because they're really going to do that. There's so much else that they could do to take the lead in this Democratic field and beat the current president even. They could expose chemical agriculture, which really needs to change, and it's not, and the farmers are not to blame. They're doing what they were taught to do. They're using the products that they were taught to use, and they don't know there's something way, way better that's exciting, that produces food that becomes like a superfood and like a nutritional supplement just from eating the food. It's fantastic, and it tastes better, and it produces more, and it's not being taught right now. And you can make more money at it too. It's not like you have to give up your income. A farmer can make more money selling good food if he or she is taught how to do it. And a great Democrat leader could come up doing that, expose the crime of GMOs and all the poisons that are being sprayed all over the food, as if you need to poison your food before you eat it. This is not a good idea. You put poison on the food and then you eat the food, you cannot wash it off. It goes right into it. Even through thick skin, it sinks in to some degree. And we have to show there's intelligent life on the planet, and so far I think it hasn't really been done. Maybe little flashes of signs that it could happen, but certainly not in the general population right now. And the leaders could take the role of leading, actually, like a great Democrat, like any of the people on the stage last night, and they could expose what needs to change about agriculture for the benefit of the farmers. Because if you're working on a farm where you're using all this poison and you're putting chemical fertilizer in the soil, a lot of which runs into the groundwater and pollutes that, a lot of people, even calling themselves conservatives, say, no environmental problem, that's all fake, it's all fraud and all this stuff. No, they're not being intelligent. There is a really serious problem, because what I found with the health issue, because I'm a health scientist and an experimental researcher, if you eat poison, it's not good for you. I know this is a really deep concept, but it's not genetics. It's not that your telomeres were too short, or that you had the bad genes, or you bad luck and you ran into some terrible germ. No, you ate poison. or you had one of the Democrats needs to expose what Dr. Conant has been talking about for so long, that there's toxic fluoride being dumped into the public water system, as if it's not a toxic waste, and it won't give you bone cancer and lower the IQ of your children and you. That's not very smart to do, is it? So why couldn't a brilliant Democrat lead the way to getting fluoride out of all the city water? Wow. It'd be a strong argument to vote for them just for that. Also, they're all talking about these different plans that would be so wonderful because everybody would have enough money, and some of them are saying, because you need enough money because you use it to buy things, and you have to buy things in the current situation that we're in. So having money is really good. I like that part. But they're saying, well, the government should just give you the money. Some of them, that's called a universal basic income. It's a really, really stupid idea, because it comes with conditions, and those conditions are very serious. Some of them are for forced medical procedures, and The other thing is, there's no need for it because the country is super rich. In fact, every country in the world is very rich because of the natural resources, unless they have no land, you know, but most of them have some minerals and other things that can be developed into wealth. And the reason that it doesn't get to the people in the country, most of them, is not because they need socialism or communism or something like that. Has very bad results when you use those systems. Famous dictator in Germany in the 1930s was a socialist, a national socialist, and the parties in charge in China that's killed, you know, 5 times what the German dictator did. That's socialist, and socialist and communist are basically just styles of the same kind of tyranny. And in Soviet Russia was doing all this bad stuff, and South American, Central American countries. You don't need that stuff. All you need to do is be intelligent and see, wait a minute, every one of these countries, who's controlling all the wealth? It's not the evil rich people. Every one of them is controlled by a central bank, including the US and almost every major country in the world. And if those are removed and fractional reserve banking is eliminated, which is a massive scam, all of this wealth is going to be able to be used in the country by the people who will creatively work for it and earn it, and they can keep it and get rid of the unconstitutional taxation systems and things like that. Why doesn't some brilliant Democrat expose how all of this fits together? Because they really have a deep understanding, and show that, you know, when you set the people free and you have true free market capitalism, which we've never had in the US, but we've had little bits of it. It's not collusion between toxic corporations and government agencies. That is actually the classical definition of fascism. It's a really good thing. And if a great democratic leader would bring that back to the public's understanding, wow, they'd be a strong presidential candidate, and they could do something great. No need for something like in the Green New Deal thing. They want to borrow trillions of dollars from the central bank, becoming totally enslaved to it and overwhelmingly taxed and controlled. This is not intelligent. I mean, yeah, the environmental concern is good, but to commit suicide to save the earth is probably not the best idea. And financial suicide is one aspect of suicide. And so finally, there's so much that these great Democrats could do to win in 2020. And one of them would be to expose the criminal activity of media that just comes out for the purpose of making stuff up that's malicious lies. And I haven't heard any of the Democrats exposing that yet. So this is a wonderful opportunity that they could start doing that, and we could have the next Democrat president saying, yes, media is critically important for any free country, but not the kind that just is there to slander people and make up stuff from nothing. It's not that you shut them down because you need the media, but you have to expose what they're doing, and this is not being done right now. It's a wonderful opportunity for any Democrat that wants to step up and start telling the truth about this stuff. They'd have a great chance to win the presidency, or the current president could do it, because remember, party doesn't matter. It's a completely made-up concept. It's both major parties in America and most places have become organized criminal operations, and what matters is not the party at all. It's the candidate, individual candidate, telling the truth using logic and saying, look, the partisan stuff is a big distraction. We all are humans, and we have the same interests, and we have a lot of common concerns that we need, and we need a healthy environment, we need prosperity, we need freedom, we need all these things. If that could, and to tell the truth, and to respect each other, and have, you know, you don't have forced medical treatments, you don't have the pollution of the whole world with weaponized frequencies in the 5G and other kinds of Wi-Fi networks. You make technology in a way that is good for people. You don't have to have austerity, you don't have to give up technology, you have to just make it intelligently, not for the purpose of causing harm, but for the purpose of actually serving free humanity. And you get a Democrat that understands that, and they could win. They could really win the presidency, and they'd probably be a wonderful influence on the world. So I'm encouraging and I was raised as a kid as a Democrat. So I was taught that they were all in favor of freedom, and they were liberal, which means they like liberty and individual rights to live as you want, as long as you don't go out hurting people. And they cared about the environment, which is only reasonable. It's our life support system. They cared about people who were having hard times and tried to make it better for them, which freedom automatically does, because it spreads private charity everywhere when you have freedom and prosperity. Way better than the government being in charge of it. So many good things, and they could live up to that even now, even though it's not really being done at the moment. But it could. Any Democrat who's brave enough to do this could win the presidency. And I want to tell the Democrats, don't give up, become great, be an example of, like Gandhi said, of the solutions that you want to see in the world. Be that. And any one of those, I think there were 12 Democrat candidates last night, could be the best thing that ever happened to America, and as an example to the rest of the world. You can have a Democratic presidency right away. Just do these things, be brave, and be an example to the rest of your party and the rest of the world. That's my suggestion to Democrats. I think they could do as much as they want, and real prosperity, no central banks, no geoengineering, creating the fake climate change, and really helping the farmers with beyond organic agriculture. But you don't need to borrow any money from the central bank and go into more slavery. You can do it intelligently, put all the pieces together. Oh, the other thing is, the Democrat really wants to be great and be historically the best leader, expose the free and clean energy technologies that have been available for more than 100 years. The current president hasn't done this. I think he suspects it, but he doesn't know. Kennedy knew something about it, and he was trying to get it done, and he obviously had a problem near the end. He wasn't pleasing the authorities above him. But a Democrat president could do this and be one of the most wonderful human beings in history. Just go and expose the real, not the solar and wind, the things that are way beyond that. The cars can all be run on water. The electric power can be generated by fixed magnets. I mean, it goes way beyond that with zero-point energy sources. If you're a Democratic candidate for president or Congress, just expose it and show people what we could really have. Just my suggestion, but that was what I came away with after watching the debate last night. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the next show.